Welcome to the podcast Selling Real Estate with Kelly Cook, where we will discuss the latest and most relevant business strategies to help you do one thing extremely well: sell more homes. We'll discuss everything from business planning to lead generation and conversion to past client customer service and everything in between. Join us for authentic conversations and nuts and bolts takeaways you can implement into your business today. And now, Selling Real Estate with Kelly Cook.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Selling Real Estate with Kelly Cook. Kelly, we did not meet last week. Real quick, were you on vacation, or kind of give us the insights to what you were doing last week? Because I think it was something fun, wasn't it?
I was.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie, I was on vacation.
Yeah.
So yeah. I went to Hawaii, actually. Went to
wow.
Oahu, and the kids had a great time. And then it's funny because I flew right from Honolulu to Las Vegas for my son's flag football tournament over the weekend, then drove back. So it was a whirlwind, to say the least.
Busy stuff. Yeah. Well, that's what we were talking about. The color looked a little bit weird on your camera. It must be that Hawaiian tan that you got. That must be what was messing with the color correction there.
That's exactly what. Yeah. No, too much sunscreen. I didn't do it. No.
Nope. Got to protect that skin.
Exactly.
All right. But, you're like, yeah, I was on vacation, got to admit it. That's important. We talk about that all the way back we talk about that quite a bit, but in business planning, put those in your calendar. It's important to have those vacations and come back and get recharged. So you have to give your mind a break in order to keep it moving forward. You
really do. It's so true. So it was good. It was good. It was spring break. It's weird because I was a kid. Spring break didn't mean like going out of town. So I don't know. I don't know if we had spring break. Maybe it's like 2 days, but now spring break's like a week. So everyone goes on vacation. Time. So, okay.
Yeah. Fantastic. Right. Well, Kelly had a great time in Hawaii. We're coming back. If you are not living under a rock, whether you're in the real estate industry or not, and just happen to be listening to this podcast, you've probably heard some of the news that has broke over the last week or so. We're kind of following the case of that the NAR and a couple different named brokerages were in a couple months back, where, the case essentially said that real estate agents had to change up the way they were doing some commissions, especially for buyer's agents. We were following that. We had kind of thought this is happening right now, but nothing to be too worried about. This isn't really going to make any changes for a while. But surprise, it's coming a little bit sooner than we thought. So Kelly has got all the details here for us and kind of talk about what that means. So let's get into it.
Yeah, no, thanks, Elizabeth. I appreciate it. So, okay, guys, there's a lot of people making content out about this right now in the real estate space. And that's good, right? I think the messaging needs to get out there. The problem is the messaging isn't all cohesive. There's a lot of bad misinformation being sent out there as well, and a lot of emotions, right? And I get it. It's very emotional. You're messing with someone's livelihood now, right? In terms of what they've always known it to be is now going to change a little bit. But I love what some people out there have said. Our president of our company at Real Broker, Sharon Savatsa, is a brilliant man. And there's a lot of brilliant other minds as well in other brokerages and in other companies across the real estate industry. So I've heard a lot of them speak on it here recently. Tom Ferry, for example, and his coaching organization, he's going to have a big webinar on it on Thursday. So a lot of it's coming out right now. And I want to be out there too as well to give you my 2 cents, because I dive deep on things like this when it's as earth-shattering as it is. I've already held a meeting with our team as well, and we talked about what this is going to look like in the future. So I think the first thing is, number one, I'm going to say is just relax. Everyone just relax, calm down for a second, because there's going to be a lot that's going to even change to an extent between now and July of 2024, in which this is when these changes are supposed to go into effect. First of all, the judge has to approve it. Most likely he's going to. That's kind of like not even debated right now. So we got to expect that. Second of all, when that happens, it's looking like it's going to be July of this year. That gives several months for people to kind of figure out a different road path, right? Different pathway to get to the same result. And I think that's what Sharon's big message was. You're going to have very much so the same result. That's what he thinks. Now, maybe not in the short term, but it's going to be a different pathway to get there. So let's talk about what we do know about the lawsuit right now. And according to the NAR, if you're an agent, you got this or you received this email from them on Friday of last week. And that was, number one, there's a release of liability for all its members. Okay. All right. Doesn't do a whole lot for the agents. For brokers, it does, but not for agents. Number two, compensation offers moved off of the MLS. This is the big one. This is the big one. This is what is everyone's saying now, is that on the MLS, compensation for offers cannot be listed anymore. They cannot be negotiated through the MLS or guaranteed through the MLS anymore. So that's going away. So now, if your client obviously likes a property as a buyer and they want you to help them, you need to have a conversation. You need to have a representation document, a buyer broker document, if you will, to state how it is they are going to pay you, an understanding of what that is going to be. This is not abnormal. This happens all the time on the listing side. It's just consumer behavior has never been such to which they did it on the buyer side. So there will be, I think if you're saying that there won't be, you're probably just living in la la land. But there's going to be a time it takes for people to get used to the new way of doing business. So there is going to be a little bit of time here in the interim in which it's going to be the Wild West, and people aren't going to want to pay agents on the buy side, and on the list side, they may not want to either. So how will you get paid? And we'll talk about that in just a second. The other thing is written agreements for MLS participants acting for buyers. So you, in other words, have to have a buyer broker agreement if you're going to be paid from a buyer. That's interesting. I like that idea. You have that agreement when you list a property or help someone sell a property. So why not on the buyer side? The settlement payout is $418 million is what is proposed over 4 years. And I don't believe that the NAR has $418 million on their books of liquidity, and that's why they needed 4 years. But even then, that's a lot of money per year. How will they get that money? I don't believe they have 118, 100 and whatever, 106 or 104 liquid on their books right now. Maybe I'm wrong, but maybe they have insurance, insurance on a big policy. Who knows? But chances are, they said they're not going to raise rates anytime soon based upon all this that's happening. I have a feeling they're going to probably raise rates to try to collect on some of that money. So they're going to try to do everything they can to try to spin this to be a very good thing for everybody, not just the brokerages, et cetera, and MLSs, et cetera, and probably try to keep people and membership high, and then obviously try to, at that point, get money and higher dues for their members and agents like you and me that are listening to this out there in the world. So, and then, of course, NAR gets to admit no wrongdoing in any of this, right, as part of the lawsuit as well. But those are the main things. Okay. That being said, what do we do about it? Where do we go from here? How do you continue to get buyers to pay for your services? Well, number one, there's a lot of things, right? We're not going to cover all of them here. I'm just going to give a couple here, right?
We've talked about some of the, we've talked about being prepared for this shift, even though we thought it was going to take a little longer. We have talked about all those things that you should start implementing in your business now in order to kind of get into the habit, communicate all of that, communicate your value with your buyers. So definitely go back and listen to those episodes because we have gone into detail on that before.
Absolutely. Number one, you have to provide value. You shouldn't be paid if you're not providing value. That's number one. So what is the value that you're going to provide? That is the bottom line that you need to sit down and think about what that is right now. You need to be able to articulate that value to someone else. Now, obviously, if you have a property that's off market, some property that's not, online on every single web portal, that's a good thing, right? In terms of being able to justify a fee. But other things, what's your negotiation like? What's your customer service like? What's the process like that you go through? How will you advise them? What's your availability to show property? And all of these things need to be looked at and said, okay, if I don't have a good system in place right now, or maybe I do, but how can I make it better? How can I make it better to where somebody say, yeah, I think justifying paying somebody a check to help me buy a house and navigate those waters is worth it. And I think the value that we provide clearly is in many, many cases. But I think there's a lot of agents out there, unfortunately, over the years that got into business for the wrong reasons. And I think those people who are hobbyists or part-time people, et cetera, those will be the people that will struggle because the people that they'll be trying to get payment from will know they're not in this, as a career. They'll know they're another profession somewhere or whatever it may be. And so why would they want to pay them? Aunt Lucy is not going to pay Johnny, the nephew, anymore, right? When she knows that he, is an engineer and he doesn't do this. So why would I pay him? It was cool before when I didn't pay him, but now I'm not going to pay him.
Yeah.
Because
you're
John the
trusting
engineer
that
doesn't
purchase
have
with them. Yeah. You're really have to trust them with the purchase of, your home or your property. So it's much more important to communicate your competency in your industry.
No question about it, right? Much more important, more important now than ever. So some of the things that I'm going to throw out there that we're already considering, and we're going to have some time to obviously train on this and then enroll it to our team, are things like attorney-based pricing. I think that's going to be something that is a flexible thing that somebody needs to have an option to potentially pay you. All right. So we're talking like billing. If you're going to show a house, what's your hourly rate? Oh, it's $250 an hour. Okay. You're just going to bill per hour. That's interesting. But I think that's something we're looking at right now. We're also looking at a menu of services. That's being one of them, but also too, potentially a flat fee model. If you want X service, you pay X. If you want a higher service, you pay X. I think there's a argument out there as well for something that has to do with time, right? If it takes you 1 weekend to identify a house you want to purchase, the fee is X. If it takes you 1 year of having an agent show you around and helping you out, but you can't find the right house, then maybe that's a different fee, right? So I think there's all these different creative things that are out there that I think people need to start considering as services to offer when you are going to sit across the table from a buyer. Also, too, let's not forget about the seller concessions. Now, if you didn't know, seller concessions are actually capped based upon the amount of down payment you're going to put down when purchasing the house as the buyer. So if they need all of the allotted seller concessions, let's say, that the contract, the lending guidelines that are out there would allow for to help them actually buy the house, that leaves zero for you as the agent in terms of commission. So then where do you get it? If the seller's not paying it, it has to come from the buyer at that point, which at that point, the buyer, if they're needing concessions to buy the house, they probably don't have the liquid money to pay you anything. So that becomes challenging. And that's why we talked about a while back when this first got, announced or went to trial in October. We talked about the people who will be harmed the most by this, by far, are going to be people who don't have as much money saved up, period, the end. So maybe first-time home buyers, people are buying lower priced homes, that sort of thing, right? And that's the sad part, because you would think those are the people our system would be geared to try to help the most, right? So
which there have already been all of the other factors, obviously, interest rates, just rising house prices that have already put, limitations on people owning their first homes or doing a move up situation in some, in a lower capacity. There's already all these other factors that this is just kind of one more layer now that's really stopping people from home ownership.
It is. And again, here's the biggest thing that really irritates me is that the media is saying, oh, well, the good thing is home prices will come down now. This will help affordability of houses. Are you kidding me? It's going to be just the opposite. These talking heads have no idea how economics actually work. It's all based on supply demand first and foremost. And right now we have an undersupply across the country, especially in hot markets that are more in demand markets like Phoenix, where I'm at. And that's going to drive prices. And then last time I checked, I don't know a seller who said, oh, if I don't have to pay X amount of fee, I'm just going to reduce my price by that much. Are you kidding me? They'll go for more. They'll keep it where it is. They want to put more than money in their pocket, and I don't blame them for wanting to do that. What for sale by owner person in the last X amount of years, decades, ever said, well, because I'm not paying any type of a fee to an agent, I'm going to drop my price by that 6% amount or whatever it may be.
Less than,
No. In fact, you do a study, more FSBOs are priced higher than houses on the MLS, represented by an agent, right? So it's just the opposite of what people think. So that's not going to happen. Home prices are not going to come down because of this. In fact, they're probably going to go the opposite direction, because now you have a seller who will be represented, and that first-time home buyer, the person who doesn't have an agent, whatever it may be, is going to want to buy this house, and they'll just have to basically take the price or whatever it is that the seller wants, especially if they're not very educated on the process, right? Think about other little things like negotiations of repairs. So they don't know how that works either. And they get a deal consummated, and now they go do their inspections. They got some things wrong with the property, but they really want the house, and they're confused about how it all works, and they miss a deadline, a contractual deadline maybe, and their earnest money is now on the in question potentially, and now they don't lose earnest money, so they sell it for the house. I mean, there's so many scenarios that are going to go the wrong way for people who just, you don't do this, but every 7 to 10 years when they look to buy or sell a house. So this is interesting. Now, there is opportunity on the seller side. I will say that. So everyone's, crying chicken little, and I don't want to do that at all, because that's not the case here. The agents at the end of the day who provide value on either side of the coin will be just fine. They'll figure out a way. They're in this as their main career. It's what it should be anyway. But the people who are helping on sellers now have the opportunity, I think, to hire a good agent, like they always have the opportunity to do so. And then I think instead of paying now, you're gonna see a lot of agents coming to the sellers going, hey, instead of paying 6%, let's say, I'll give you deals to 4 or 4.5 or whatever, and you don't have to pay any other person. And to the seller, they might be like, hey, that's a great deal, because normally I'd be paying more than that for the whole kit and caboodle. And if you're so good at marketing, Mr. Listing Agent, which maybe they are, maybe they're really good. I don't know. They have a plethora of off-market buyers ready to go. Who knows? Some agents are like that. I mean, look at the commercial side, which I'll talk about in a second. It's similar to that. So I'll pay you 4.5. I save 1.5 points. I'm good with that. And then there's no buyer agent. The buyer comes along, and that person makes more than they would have normally made. So I think it's a bigger opportunity potentially. Again, another unintended consequence to an extent for listing agents who are strong there to potentially make more, even though they may make less when they normally are helping buyers, right? So
putting more of your eggs in one basket, essentially.
Yeah. So I think, you look at the commercial real estate segment. This is exactly what it's like, except for one thing: protected data. Okay. Now we have a commercial division under our team, and so I'm very familiar with the process, although I wouldn't call myself an expert all the way through. But you look at like commercial agents, and they have niches they're really good at, right? Medical office, industrial, retail, whatever it may be, right? Well, most people may or may not know that when a commercial agent, who's a good one, takes a listing to get a listing from someone who wants to sell a building or whatever it may be, they really, really politic and are very they're very what's the word I'm looking for, confident that the best way to sell the house is to not go to the vast open market and put it on CoStar, Crexi, LoopNet, whatever it may be, and instead let it be shopped to their off-market buyer list and to their contacts of other brokers, et cetera, that know are strong in that field. And in doing so, it creates leverage for the seller, because that off-market buyer says, yep, that sounds what I'm looking for to buy. I want to buy it. Then they say, cool, here's the price. They go, nah, I want to pay $1 million less. No, thanks. We'll just sell it to someone else. And they go, but I really want that office building. Okay, then that's the price. Okay, I'll pay your price. Right? So that's how that works. And so that's interesting, right? Protected data helps, because the consumer sits there and goes, you know what, I want to buy an office building. If I go on this website, I realize that, first of all, I don't have access. I don't have all the premium memberships. I don't pay all the money, right? Number one, I don't have all the access to all the properties. Number two, even if I do have access with the premium membership on one site, that same property may not be listed by the broker on that website. It might only be on Crexi or only be on CoStar. You see what I'm saying? And so then the consumer goes, well, I want to make sure I'm seeing everything. So, screw the whole thing. Let me just call a broker. That's the difference. So we don't have that in residential space right now. But one of my predictions, Elizabeth, is that could change. Here's what I think would be kind of interesting. Take the big, stay with me, guys. Take the big consumer portals like Zillow, Redfin, Homes.com, et cetera.
Realtor, yep.
They already have the eyeballs, correct? And they go, I would love for one of them to say, you know what? There's an opportunity here. Hey guys, forget the MLS, all you agents. Come for a fee of whatever. You get so many listings that you can now advertise on my platform. Why? Because I already have all the eyeballs. So, and on my platform, you can, because it's not NAR affiliated or anything, or brokerage affiliate, you can advertise whatever you want to pay a buyer's agent. Now, when that happens, how many agents who work with buyers will be like, well, hear about that and go, let's go look at those properties. And then the sellers go, well, then, yeah, I'll just bypass MLS. Well, if they bypass MLS, does it automatically go to the other big websites? It does not. See, the only reason agents put the property in the MLS is because they know that's where all it will be syndicated to all the websites that have the eyeballs, and therefore it's in the best interest of the seller, right? Well, it's in the best interest to find a select motivated number of buyers that are looking for something like what their house is to not do that and go to a website that has a lot of people too as well, but a lot of high quality buyers, because maybe those buyers are represented by buyer agents. You can make that argument.
Well, and
that
regular buyer, like, just so that I have this right, like, buyers don't have access to the straight up MLS. So they're the ones that are like, they're looking at all of these sites anyway. So if they're not working with a buyer's agent, or like if they're sending stuff to them, I think in a lot of cases, they're the ones usually kind of sending stuff to their agents being like, hey, I want to look at this house. Right. So it kind of makes sense that, yeah, if they bypass the MLS, then you're getting a little bit more directly to buyers, I guess.
Well, yeah, but what makes it work for all the websites is the MLS, because the agent who doesn't have maybe time or doesn't want to put it in all these different websites, right? They just put it in one place and there it goes. So if you now say on my website over here, Redfin or whatever, somewhat, homes.com, I have a site and I'll let you put whatever buyer fee you want. And you don't put one, your choice, right? Agents go there now and start putting their stuff in justhomes.com. Well, it's not going to be picked up by Zillow. It's not going to be picked up by, and now then one step further, the consumer goes, well, if I'm on Zillow, how come 123 Main Street's not on Zillow? Homes.com. Oh, there it is. Wait, so now not all the properties are on all the different websites now? Okay, this is interesting. How do I make sure I get all the properties in this neighborhood zip code? Well, let me call the agent because they have access to it.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah, because the buyers are the ones looking at the syndicated websites. Yeah.
Correct. And that's where it could go to, which would be very interesting. It would be like very karma-like, right? Because the MLSs are the ones that sold out the data sold the agents with all the data to all these consumer sites many years ago for money, of course, for the almighty dollar. And now potentially it could come full swing all the way back to where now the agents all say, I don't want the MLS anymore.
Yeah.
That would be crazy. And that, if one of these big portals that has, because the eyeballs are what is important, right? Why does the agent put a listing on any website? Well, they bother putting it on the websites that they know have the eyeballs. Well, how did they get the eyeballs? They got the eyeballs because they spent billions of dollars advertising, saying, I have the listings, right? And come to my website. So if one of those portals already have a lot of eyeballs says, bypass the MLS, you can offer compensation, you can do whatever you want to do on our website. That would be interesting, especially a big one that has a lot of eyeballs.
And so just to be clear then, the rules that are coming into place about not, listing the commission, that is just for the MLS. That is not saying that agents cannot list their commission up front. It is just, it cannot be listed on the MLS. Okay.
Correct. So if you list your property on some other website that has nothing to do with MLS, like, I don't know, like homes.com
on there. You can put whatever.
Yeah, you could. But as long as, but here's the kicker. I'm assuming, right? As long as all these websites get feeded data from, or fed, fed, that's terrible English. Fed data from the MLS, I'm sure they have agreements amongst each other, right? To where, if I go directly and call up homes.com and say, hey, they're going to have to say, no, sorry, because we have this agreement with MLS. See what I'm saying? They have to fully break it off, I would imagine. I don't know. I'm not an attorney, but I would imagine that would be the case, right? So, but if someone steps up and says, there's a big opportunity here because now agents will pay me,
and you'd have to pay them directly. Monthly. Yeah.
There could be a big opportunity there. There could be a big opportunity for that big portal, right? Because what agents now will probably say, yeah, I'll sign up for that. And because I'll be the rock star agent, because all the other agents who have buyers will love me because I'll put my, I'll be offering compensation. So it's interesting, right? So who knows what will happen? I just want to throw it out there because that's a wild thing that maybe, possibly
there are going to definitely be, as always, there are like ways that, yes, you can adjust your business to fit into kind of the rules that are coming along now, but there are always going to be innovators in the space that are going to change the rules. Like that's
exactly.
And, change the way that things are done to fit, the benefit of the industry, essentially, to keep things moving along, keep people, having jobs that are going to continue to make them money and help buyers and sellers primarily. So,
yeah. And I'll say one last thing about this lawsuit here. What's also interesting is the clear cooperation rule. Okay. With the NAR that says that you have to, if you want to, as a licensed agent, if you want to advertise a property at all, you have to have it on the MLS within 24 hours. Okay. Which is kind of crazy overall, in my opinion, but that's the rule. Now, that is not part of this settlement proposal. So if it goes through the way it's proposed, there are other small lawsuits or other lawsuits against NAR for the clear cooperation rule specifically, but that was not in this proposal. So if this gets settled and these things go into effect in July, potentially at that time, the clear cooperation rule is still in place, which is even crazier, because that means that in this situation, you now can no longer offer compensation anywhere on MLS, right, to a buyer agent, yet you still have to put your property into MLS as a listing agent, which is crazy, because if you're not going to, that would be the craziest thing, because in my opinion, the clear cooperation rule should go away if you're going to make this change, because now you're empowering the stronger listing agents to potentially try to sell it off market, meaning off MLS completely, right? To maybe a bunch of 25 buyers they know, whatever, right? Which, by the way, may be represented, may want representation. Therefore, maybe as listing agent, you will offer that compensation to them via email, right?
Yeah.
Not through the MLS, because it won't be on the MLS. Do you see what I'm saying? What I'm saying is, right now, if you want to be off market and put the word out there at all, you have to be in the coming soon status on MLS. Okay, which now, as of July 24th, if this goes through, will offer zero compensation on the MLS. So now, if you're going to offer zero compensation on MLS, you should give the agents the ability to then sell things off the MLS completely and still be able to market social media on your account, your emails,
Your
whatever,
website,
and say in your email to all these agents or buyers that work this area, I have this property, here are the specs, and I'm offering X amount of compensation, which is totally legal, because it's not through the MLS. But you can't do it as long as the clear cooperation rule stays in effect. So hopefully that gets taken out too with one of these lawsuits. That's my hope, that this is going to stick.
Okay. Last thing that I have on this, and just because, again, this was a couple of years ago, I'm not really familiar with what exactly this was about, but wasn't there a rule made in place, like change, where like you couldn't have pocket listings? Was that like something that happened where
that's the clear cooperation rule?
Okay, that's what it was. I was like, is that what they're saying? You have to put it on the MLS. You can't have the buy. Okay, I was just making sure those were the same things.
If you're going to advertise a listing at all, a paper flyer, social media, whatever, then the minute you put it out there to the universe, you have to have it on the MLS, at least in a coming soon status, within 24 hours.
Okay.
Which is, I just don't agree with that. It takes some of that. I understand why they did it, right? Because they want to make sure that buyers out there, know about everything, but it definitely is not in the best interest of the seller. That's for sure. But from the buyer standpoint, maybe it's better. I don't know. That's not the point. The point is that it'll be really interesting if that sticks with this settlement, and you still have that rule to adhere to as well, which I think would be a little unfortunate.
Okay, a lot to unpack here. And we'll wait and see. Like Kelly said, there's a bunch of different things that you can do. Again, go back, listen to our episodes about how to really prove your value as a buyer's agent, kind of the things that you may need to switch up a little bit, just in terms of everything we kind of talked about before. I'm sure that we'll have some updates on what different people are going to do as far as pricing structures. I know Kelly talked about a couple of different things that they're playing around with in terms of how they're going to still compensate your buyer's agents, right? Like regardless, you still need to have a compensation plan in some way, shape, or form for those people. So I know there's going to be a bunch of different kind of ideas and ways that people are going to do it. We'll see kind of what happens. We'll keep you updated here as things develop. But if you have any questions for Kelly about this, any other topic that we've covered here, Kelly, where can they reach you?
Yeah, absolutely. Text me, call me. This is an interesting situation that the industry is in, and we'll see how it plays out. But 480-227-2028 or on Instagram at Kelly Cook Homes.
Yeah, and as always, if you are looking to build your real estate team this year, or anytime in the future, amid all of these changes, go to buildyourrealestateteam.com and download kind of the guide that Kelly wrote up for you on not only how he did it, but some of how he did it and how he wishes he had did it so that you don't have to make all those same mistakes.
Exactly.
But other than that, we will see you guys next week. Bye, Kelly.
See you, Elizabeth.